computer. Okay, I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and I believe that more people will show up as we continue. But I'm very delighted to welcome Arine Schmidt tonight to this special webinar, and also not only to have Arine here to tell you some things about her journey of English, but to see Crystal here, to see Elaine again after so long, to see Sophia, to see Magda and Mateus, and of course Andre, and last but not least, my lovely wife Diane and Kalweg. So I'm going to turn it over to Arine at this point. And Arine, you should have total control of everything at this point, so you should be able to do your slides and things like that. So show is yours, my friend.
Good. First of all, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks, Mike, for inviting me. I was very honored to share a little bit of my story with you guys. I don't think I usually share a lot of my story, even though I probably not that I should, but just like it's just not my style to be sharing my story around. But yeah, let's I will be talking a little bit, and you guys please like share any questions, but like quick intro, like quick agenda. I was just planning like if we can start with quick intro. I know Mike, you've started, but maybe just like spend a minute each person, just like I'm gonna show a few like just quick intro, and then I'm gonna share a little bit of my story from like, or once I lived from Blumenau, where I was born and raised, to Harvard, what was my story and like how I got there. And then if there is anyone taking the talk, I'm also happy to like spend a few minutes sharing a little bit like some of the tips that I've learned through the process. And then feel free, like we don't need to wait until the end for questions, just please like mute yourself and ask any questions. If it gets boring as well, just like tell me, hey, please move on. I will not. But yeah, we'll love to start with quick round of intros before if I'm gonna pick the first one, and then you guys can just like, but yeah, please like just share your name, where is home, and like if there's anything you're interested today in a fun fact. Crystal, you're gonna start. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, and of course. Okay, my name is Crystal Sheikh, and I'm from Xi'an, China, where you probably heard the terracotta warrior is. And it's one of the 7 wonders of the world. So my home is a 40 minutes drive from that site. And I know Arine from more than a decade ago. So we were both Mike's students at the same time, so I wouldn't miss the world for this. I actually made some arrangement to show up at this webinar, and so yeah, and I am really admiring you, and of course adore you as a person. So fun fact, I guess the fun fact is that I had all this long journey with Arine, and I remember she was a great hip hop dancer at the time. And this is this young girl.
It was a fun fact about you, not about me, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, like the fun fact is like I know you more than some other people here, I guess. And if it's about me, is I lived in more than 5 different states in the United States. When I say live in, I mean long term, like more than 2 years. So yeah, that's it.
You pick the next one, Crystal.
Thanks.
Who is going next, Crystal?
Crystal, you pick.
Oh, okay. Diane, why would you go next?
Well, I'm chiming on because I had this. We hosted many international students, not Arine. And Arine, it's so delightful to see you. But I actually remember you coming to our house for, I don't know, Mike always hosted all these students, parties, barbecues, because, we hosted a lot of Brazilians, had to be barbecue. And Irene, it's so delightful to see you, but I have a little secret window. Mike shared with me a little bit, maybe what you're going to share, how you got to where you are, but it's I'm anxious to hear more, but I compliment you. I never had any doubts, Irene.
Wow.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Next.
Choose somebody else.
Oh, Elaine.
Mhm.
Hello, my name is Elaine Bolton. I'm originally from Hong Kong. Now I'm living in Dallas.
Wow.
And what brought you to the webinar? Actually, I was talking to Crystal today, and she asked me, "Oh, maybe if you're interested." So yeah, I want to get some tips for how to speak better English. That's why I'm here today. And also, fun fact is actually, Yaoyu is my first friend in US
Wow.
8 years ago.
Wow.
Wow.
You picked a very good friend, Elaine.
Yes, I'm so lucky.
Okay. Elaine, choose somebody else to talk. Can't hear you.
Well, I can't see the other names.
Andrea?
Okay.
Andrea.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm busy with another task, another project. I'm sorry. I am originally from Ukraine, like I said before, and also I am today connect to this webinar because Iranian history in announce is very interesting for me and for my wife, because we now have the same project and the same situation. My wife, we relocate to United States, start with English as a second language, and we relocate in not in young ages. We are old adult, very adults people, and we got social result in our country, but now we start from the scratch, and my wife currently also completing the program, MBA program in New York University, and this seminar is very interesting for me and for my wife.
Okay.
And I'll give Andre a fun fact. He was a competitive swimmer and was good enough to make the junior national team in Ukraine when he was younger. Yeah, so that's Andre's fun fact. And one of these days, dear, you and he'll have to have a swimming conversation, because
Yes.
Andre's quite the swimmer. Okay, Andre, choose somebody else to talk. Choose someone else to talk.
Sophia, maybe.
Okay, Sophia.
All right, let me unmute here. So my name is Sophia. I live in Santos, Brazil. What brought me to this webinar? Actually, Mike mentioned earlier this morning, right, when we were in class together, and I thought that I wasn't able to attend the webinar because I had a student now, but my student canceled, so I'm here now. And fun fact, I don't know much. Maybe I've been teaching for almost 12 years, and it's been a long time. But yeah, that's it, I think.
Okay.
I don't know much. Yeah.
Okay.
Should I, Magda, please?
All right. So, well, my name is Magda. I'm from a very funny city here in Brazil, but I'm currently living in São Paulo. I don't know if you guys are aware of a city called Varginha, which is the ET city, which is also a fun fact, I guess. So I'm from this funny city here in Brazil. I say funny because everybody asks me every time I say I'm from Varginha. People say, "Have you seen the ET, the alien?" And
Oh,
I'm
the
always
alien
like,
series.
"No, I was too young when the situation happened, so I had no idea like what was going on." So well, yeah, this is also a fun fact. And what brought me here, of course, to see my amazing friend Arine. Everything that she participates on, I'm always like there, to cheer for her because she is a person that I really admire. She knows that because I have, told her like many times. But and also there's another fun fact I'd like to share. I don't know if she recalls this, but when we were back in Philly, we were neighbor. Of course, she remembers this. We were neighbors, but there was a day that I cannot forget, which was remarkable for me because after when I saw her, accomplishing many things, many great things that happened in her life, I still remember this day with like much joy. We went to University of Pennsylvania together, and she was holding like many documents because she wanted to apply. Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot, but yeah, I got it.
And you have no idea. Like I remember this day. I still remember the outfit you were wearing that day. Like that's how much remarkable this is for me. And we went together, and then after a while, you told me, "Oh, it didn't work out. You were kind of, like upset about the situation." But then, like, a couple years after that, you told me I'm going to Harvard, and I was like, yay, I was so happy for you. And I was, sure that day that you told me, I was sure that it didn't work out for you that day because your plans were much bigger than, I mean, the universe plans were much bigger for you than, just going to UPenn. And when you told me that, I was thrilled. And it passed, like, seriously, like a film, in front of my eyes from that day to where you are right now. And I couldn't miss tonight and see you telling us this amazing story. I have a profound admiration for you, and you know that. So that's why I'm here, and I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks, Magda.
Okay. Magda, you choose next. We got two guys left.
All right, let me see. Okay, Mateus.
Yep.
Hello. First of all, my name is Mateus. I'm living in Campinas, São Paulo. I'm here today because first Mike sent me a link, and I am the process for going to the United States in August. And I think, and I'm here, it's so good to improve my English because the best fear I have is my English. I don't know if it's any fun fact, but I'm play beach tennis, and I'm getting ready to turn on professional.
Yeah, and you're a guitar player too, Mateus. Don't forget that. That's it. Yeah, he's a guitar player.
There it is.
Yeah, he's a guitar player.
And Mateus, where are you going in the US again? Or what school?
St. Louis, Missouri. The name of school is Christian Academy.
Oh,
Yeah, very nice. And in the heartland, St. Louis. Yeah, very nice.
I have some friends in St. Louis. I will introduce you to them. So you.
Okay. Nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Cauê, you're the last guy.
Oh, I'm the last. I'm Cauê. I'm from Brazil. I live in Campinas, São Paulo. I'm here because when Mike told me about this webinar, I enjoyed the subject, and I love this kind of stories. and it's so good. And one fun fact I think is the story about me and Mike is a fun fact because I studied with Mike 7 years ago, and when I met Mike, I love the kind of Mike talk with the Brazilian, teach Brazilians is so good. And when I back, I did some recommendations for Mateo's dad.
Yes, Mateo's dad,
Mateo's dad and
Priscilla.
other friends I started to talk about Mike. And no, when you go to US, if you go to Philly, you need to meet this guy and send them Mike WhatsApp.
Yeah, and
I remember
that's how it all
I thought Mike about to use Instagram because Mike don't use Instagram
I'm
till
old.
yeah. Is this?
Great.
Okay, I think that's everybody.
Lovely, Mike. I feel like everyone knows you, so I'm gonna jump your intro. All right, so let's get started. Thanks everyone for introducing yourself. It's lovely meeting you and just like knowing why you're here, so I can also focus on some like parts of my story on what would be helpful or not for anyone. Before I get into the details of like the journey itself from where I was born to Harvard or even like to where I am now, right? Just like high level, so we're on the same page. It's just like, okay, I was born and raised in this small city in Brazil called Blumenau. It's a very German city where Blumenau hosts the largest Oktoberfest outside of Munich. So that's why Blue Eyes and the Schmidt last name. And my parents, we're a family of five. My parents, we didn't have a lot, right? So I went to a private college just because I had a through scholarships. My mom never went to college. My dad did a kind of like a college, not really. So just that's like setting up, like didn't have a lot of information on college, but throughout like elementary school, I was learning about like potential school. So I knew I wanted to study engineer, and I went graduated from industrial and mechanical engineer at the Federal University of Santa Catarina in Brazil. So it's a very good school for engineering. So I graduated in 2013, so like 10 years ago. And then after that, I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do next? And there was a few opportunities, but I decided to work for LATAM Airlines. So I went to Chile, worked for LATAM Airlines. LATAM Airlines is the largest airline in Latin America. And I worked for them for 6 years, doing a lot of like strategy roles. So network planning, strategy, fleet planning. And I'm just going to mention that I'm going to get into more details on how that was extremely helpful for me to get into Harvard. So I left LATAM to do my MBA. So I went to the US, went to Boston, got my degree, my MBA at Harvard. Was 2 years in Boston. Gonna get more details to come as well. And then currently I work for McKinsey. So McKinsey is the largest strategy consulting firm in the world. Basically like supporting very large clients on like their strategy, operations, and more to come on that as well if anyone is interested in the consulting life. I don't think so, but maybe Mateus. Mateus, I think, is the only one I can still convince you to get into the
be a
consulting
consultant.
And just personally, like I love going to the beach, living in Miami. That's easy. I have my partner Rodrigo. Have been together for 10 years. We're gonna get married in November. So that's a little bit of me. So just framing on overall who I am, like, and a few of the things I've done, but what I wanted to share is just like the decisions I've made throughout on how to actually like, I'm gonna say improve my English, because my goal was never like go to Harvard, right? I never thought about that, but just like how the decisions I've taken throughout my life, how they have led me to at some point even consider and like being able to get it to go to Harvard. And again, I don't think this is a recipe for anything, right? This is just my story. I would change a lot of things on my story, but I just want to share if there's anything that it's helpful for anyone on how I did and how I would done things differently. That's the goal here. So I will start with my story going to Philly, because that was a very, very important step in my life. And I think a lot of the opportunities came after I decided to go to Philadelphia. So I was studying, it was my second year undergrad, and I've learned about this work and travel program that I think like all Brazilians learn about it when you are in college. That was a thing at my time. I'm not sure if it is still a thing currently. But that was like, you could go as a college student, you could go to the US to work for like 3 months. And you would basically pay for that, but then you're gonna get paid back. So basically it was like net. You wouldn't pay anything, you would learn English, and you would maybe travel around a little bit in the US. So a lot of people were doing that. I was like, well, I think I can do that. I didn't, like, my parents didn't have any money, but I knew I could get just enough money to pay for the program and then get paid back after doing it. So I decided to go, and there was like 2 ways of doing it, right? Either you would go with a job before, like you would get a job before going to the US, or you would go without a job and get a job, like find a job in the US. Most of my friends went with the first option. Everyone like would go to some career fairs and then get a job and then go to the US with a job, usually to like a ski station or like some resorts, but they would pay less. So it's like, okay, I need the money. And I think like I can get a job there, right? So it's like, okay, why not to risk a little bit, right? And go for something that would pay me more and would be different. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna go without a job. Where am I going? It's like, where in the US do I want to go? Have no idea. So I was doing some private classes with this guy that he was a basic, like a homeless, like he had no house basically in Brazil. He was living in Florianopolis. I found him, like, you know, like when people put in the tree, like the like an advertisement for like, hey, I'm gonna, and I think I was paying like probably less than I was paying for you, Mike, for the English class. Very cheap. Ends up he used to live in Philadelphia. He was from a very rich family. They had a building in the Rittenhouse Square. Mike, you know her.
Very, very, yeah, upscale
Very
area.
well, yeah. And he was in Brazil because he didn't like, he never really liked his family, so he went to Brazil. So I would have private classes with him. And I told him, hey, I want to go to the US, like in this program. And he was like, oh, I have my ex-girlfriend. He was like 60 something, right? My ex-girlfriend is a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, and she rents rooms for students. So maybe you can talk to her. I was like, well, yes, of course. Philadelphia, had no idea where it was. So we scheduled a Zoom call, and then Ellen, her name, she joined. I couldn't understand anything. My English was like, very, very basic. Like I did, like went through, studied like in school, right? As 2 hours per week. Professor barely like could speak in English as well. So it was like basic. So I could barely understand her. There was no video. And she was like, yeah, I can rent you a room for, I don't know, like $200 per month. That was like very cheap. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. So I decided to go. That could have been a scam. She could that could have been like anything. My parents trust me a lot, so they never really asked anything. I would never let my kids do what I did because really like end up that Ellen is the best person in this world. She hosted me and like a few other Brazilians that came after me as well. And we still keep in touch. But I came to Philly and then without a job, but I was in a good place. So Ellen went out, helped me out to find a job. I went to, and there's this other fun story, just all like when you don't speak English well, the things that happen to you, right? My second day in Philly, I had to find a job because I decided I didn't want to go with the job to get paid more. Great idea, terrible idea. It was a recession year in the US. I started looking at restaurants, and then I went to Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão is a Brazilian steakhouse. Spoke to the hostess, right, the person that was like in the front of the restaurant, and she was like, oh yeah, we need. I didn't know how to say. I asked if they were hiring someone, right? I didn't know how to ask if they had any job available. I had no idea how to ask that, so I was like, okay, like anything available. And she was like, okay, yeah, talk to the manager. So I spoke to the manager, and the manager said, yes, great, I liked you, come back tomorrow at 2 p.m. I thought he said 2 p.m. So I went the following day, was ready. I went like to a secondhand store, bought my clothes, went back at 2 p.m. The manager looks at me and was like, what are you doing here at this time? It's like, you asked me to come at 2 p.m. He's like, no, I said 11. Completely different, but I understood 2 and not 11. Well, I was fired like the first day. So I was like great. Great. This is going not great. So then I was like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna find another job. And then I start walking, and lucky enough, I found there's another Brazilian steakhouse like 3 blocks away called Shima. Met the manager, Japa, you know him, Mike, a lovely person. He interviewed me, gave me the job. I show up this time at the right time, the right day. And then yeah, that was basically like start making money. And I made like my family there because I still like I'm very close to Japa and everyone. I was like, okay, that is check. But I was like kept in mind there's like I really wanted just to speak English. Like so I was not hanging out with a lot of Brazilians, and what's important for me is like I need like some structured way of like really learning English. And that's how I met Mike, because I walked by the international house, I saw they had free English classes, and I was like, okay, that's another opportunity for me to really nail, like to really learn English, right? Not just speaking, but also having like the writing, the listening, right? Like all the other skills that I need to learn. So I did some classes at International House with Mike. That's how we met. And then I was like, this is not enough, because I think the class was like 10 people. It was not a lot of like talking time. So that's when it's like, Mike, is there any option, right? And with Krista, I was like, is there any option we can do act like classes at your house for extra? And he was super kind. Again, I think he'd said before, $5 an hour, $5 an hour. That's nothing. But that was my way of like, okay, I need to keep improving my English, and those are the ways of like, right, like for very like not a lot of money because I didn't have to keep practicing. So I avoid to stay a lot of Brazilians. Magda was an exception because she is just amazing, right? Like there was no way of not hanging out with her. But we didn't have like a lot of Brazilian friends. It was like a very tight like group. Outside of that, 100% English. So my English improved a lot I was there for like 6 months. So it improved a lot during that time because of all the things I was like looking for to improve it. So I went back to Brazil after that time, went back to school, and I was like, okay, now it's time. And everyone there is still in college. I think it's just Mateus there is still will be in college soon. But it's usually you can do, one of the options is to do an internship or a semester abroad, right, to study in another university. And all my friends were going to Europe, and I was like, I probably should go to Europe, so much more fun than the US, right? Like going to Italy or like France, Germany. I was like, no, I really need to improve my English. That was a still part of like because I thought from a business perspective, it doesn't really matter if you speak 2 okay languages. Like you really need like English, you need to nail English, right? It doesn't matter if you speak okay English and an okay French. Like it will might open like new opportunities, but English as the first language, at least for me and what I've seen so far, it really matters. So I was like, okay, there was not a lot to the US, but then the company I was working for, they said, you could go there. There's like this city, Binghamton, it's in the upstate New York. You could go work in a lab that we have there. I'm a mechanical and industrial engineer, but I totally hate the mechanical part. I really enjoy the industrial, but don't like the mechanical. So they're like, you can go to the US, but you're gonna have to work in a lab by yourself running experiments. So like all reliability tests, like ovens, and you have to open the oven, put electronic boards in there. It's like, oh my Lord, it's like, this is not what I like. But for me, it's like, this is my another opportunity for me to learn English, right? So I went there for like 6 months again. It was miserable. The city was terrible. There was nothing to do in the city. It was super cold. No public transportation. I was working. I like talking to people. But I was working by myself in the lab the whole day. But again, other opportunity. I really like that. There was no Brazilians, just me. So I had to speak English all the time. And on top of that, I decided that I could take classes in the school, in the university as well. So I was like, okay, I will do that, right? So they didn't want me to do undergrad classes. So they were like, you could take master classes with the people in the master program. It's like, okay, I will do it. Like, I'm an undergrad, but I have no problem. I will take it. So I did it. And honestly, I came back I remember my last days in Binghamton, my English was, it was very good. Like people would really like, like I have an accent. Everyone, like a lot of people will have, but I felt like, okay, I nailed it. Good. I was super happy. Came back. And interesting enough, like that was not. I thought I wanted to like go work in the US, but that was not something that was like easily available for you to go to the US work after graduating. Right? I don't know if you guys tried, but like it's usually like not as easy. If you go study and then get a visa after studying and staying, easy. So I came back, graduated, and there was some opportunities in Brazil to work like in Honda, Itaú, like some companies in Brazil. And I had this opportunity to go work for Latam Airlines in Chile for an airline. Like they were doing the merge between a Brazilian company and a Chilean company. So they were bringing a lot of Brazilians to Chile to work. So I was like, this sounds like interesting, like go live in another country again. Now that I feel my English was good enough, go learn Spanish, right? Another language. For 2 years, the idea was like go there for 2 years. No one understood my decision because it's like no one knew Latam Airlines, like LAN at that time. But it's like, okay, let me go. What a good decision. Because I went to Chile. And before, just like to set up, going back a little bit, right? I graduated school, and that time, I've never heard of, like in school, at least at that time, no one was talking about like, oh, you can do your MBA. Like there is a master or MBA that you can do, go study abroad, right? Never heard about like applying to Harvard. That was, I didn't know anyone that went to Harvard before, right? Like that was not a thing for me, or like any Ivy League school in the US, right? Any like top school in the US. So I was like very in my like bubble in that school, and I never had this exposure to that to the people that other people that have done that before. But then going to Chile and working for Latam, actually this company like attracted very good talent from like abroad and people after the MBA. So people would go do their MBAs, and Latam would hire them in Chile, like LAM, to work after the MBA. So that's when I met people that went to Harvard and went to Stanford and went to Columbia, like a lot of like very good schools in the US. And I was like, okay, interesting. So then I had but I was still like, yeah, like I would never, like no, right? I would never, I can't do it. But at least I got to know people that did it. So it's like, okay, I know what is Harvard. I know what is an MBA now. So during my time at Latam was like 6 years. I loved the company. I met Rodrigo, my partner there, so that was a special as well. So after 4 years, or like 4 years at Latam, I was like, okay, I want to switch industries. I want to do something else, and I really want to go live in another country, and would love to live in the US. And then the MBA was the perfect solution for me to go to the US in a student visa, and then if I wanted to stay in the US after the MBA in a working visa and switch careers. So decided to apply to the MBA. Has anyone here taken the GMAT? GMAT? Have you heard about it?
Yeah.
I did it. You know, I did it for my graduate entry.
Okay, so the GMAT, you know, Jana, how it's
Yep.
it's a very it's hard because it's like just two components, quantitative tasks like math,
Yep.
so
Yep.
logic, and the language part, right? The quality, I don't know what the language part. Okay, it's like for us, like we don't like speak English as the first language. For them, it's already difficult. For us, it's like 5 times more, and there's a time constraint, right? So you really need, like, it's super fast. You need to get
Super fast.
So that was a pain because you have to get a good score in that in order for you to be accepted in any of the like good schools. So I took it like 4 times, I think. And it was just like I would study every day for like 4 hours. Weekends I would not do anything. I would just study for that. So I think for like 6 months I had no life. It was just like studying for the GMAT and the TOEFL they were going to talk about. But that was and it's just frustrating because you do it and then you go well in the math and you don't go so well in the English piece, and then you do it again and you do the opposite, but it doesn't matter. You have to do good in both. So it's like, okay, whatever. That was just a very hard part. I always gave up. I was like, I'm not like I can't do it. But then I was like, someone was helping me. He's like, let's do it. You have a good like CV, you have a good story, let's really try. So I was like, okay. And then usually you apply for like 4 or 5 schools. I was so insecure about my score and about everything that I applied to 10 schools. So I did like whole full application for 10 schools. I don't know if Mateus, you had to do like applications for the high, like the high schools, but like it's a lot, it's a pain. Applied for 10 and applied to Harvard. It was like, let's try. So I still remember the day I opened the website and said I got accepted at Harvard. I got accepted at a few other schools as well. And that's how I went to Harvard. So I was very excited, very happy. I just like couldn't believe I made it. But then it was time to go to Harvard, and it was great. It was 2 years, but again, I thought my English was good, and I got there. It was a daily struggle, right? Because it's just everyone, even the international students at Harvard, already did an undergrad in Harvard, most of them. So everyone, the English level for everyone is like another level. So even though I had my like I took the TOEFL, got like 112, was not bad, like it was good, right? 112, but even with that level, I would feel not great. And the classes at Harvard is just like you get a case a week before the class, and then every day you have like 4 classes, so you have 4 cases per day. So you have to read for each class, you have like 20 pages that you have to read. They send like a few questions before for you to prep. So you read a case, 20 pages, and then you go to the class, and then the professor will cold call someone. That meaning like they will ask anyone out of the 100 students in the classroom to open the case. So the professor will say, hey, Crystal, can you please tell what is your opinion about the decision the CEO made for this company? And then you're by yourself for like 5 minutes opening up the case, explaining your decision, and then the professor might follow up with some questions. So that was terrifying. And then the whole class is just like, okay, you open up, and then they started like, okay, who else has an opinion? So you have to raise your hand to talk. So the whole class is just about talking, and you have to talk. Your grades are based on the comments that you made in your class. So for someone that doesn't like feel comfortable speaking English, and I was definitely not, especially because you look at the Americans and like you will say something very concisely, but then no one will really understand you, and then just the American across the classroom will say exactly the same thing, but in a very nice way for like a minute, and everyone is gonna say, whoa, that is amazing what you just said. The concept is exactly the same, but like I couldn't express myself well, right? So it's just like that daily struggle, even though like I thought my English was great, I feel it never ends, right? So it was tough, but it was great. I met a bunch of like great people. It opened a lot of doors for me. It's from like a networking perspective, friends, and the job that I got. So I applied to McKinsey. There is this consulting company like in the middle of the MBA, got my offer. So and here I am now working for McKinsey. It's a great company. I work a lot, but it's a very great company. And again, I feel like my English has improved. I feel more confident, but it's still right now it's like very high level business, like business level proficiency that is required. And like I have a meeting with the CEO of like a 500 billion company on Thursday that I have to present, and I'm nervous, right? I mean, I would be nervous probably in Portuguese, but it's just like I'm extremely nervous because it's all in English. I know like I still struggle like to express myself in a lot of ways, right? So just like I feel like it is what it is, right? I'm never gonna feel 100% confident, but I keep training, and I keep like forcing myself to like get out of my comfort zone to try to improve my English. So that's a little bit of like the takeaways from me, right? Like it's just like go out of your comfort zone, learn, like go learn it. It's not gonna be easy. Don't hang out just with Brazilians, Chineses, or whoever. And that was my way of like improving my English to now. So let me stop here a little bit. I have just like on the TOEFL piece, but I'm not sure if a lot of people is interested, but I'm happy to talk about the TOEFL, how I did it. But let me stop here if there's any questions. Any questions that you guys have, or anything you would like to understand better?
I have a question, but I want to see if anybody else has a question too, because I always have questions.
I also have a question, but go ahead. Anybody else?
Anybody else before the awards?
I do.
Go ahead, Crystal. Good.
Okay, so my question is actually about your MBA. So do you feel like you have any advantage as a foreigner, as someone who, speak English as a second language, but by being foreigner and has seen a lot, has a multicultural background, been traveled a lot, actually possess advantage over some of the candidates or the students in your program?
To get accepted, right, Crystal?
Yeah. Mhm.
I do like the way they set up the class, right, is that they want a diverse class. So they really want to people from different countries.
Yeah.
Having said that, different countries mean like, for example, Mateus is coming to study, if he decides to do his college in the US and work in the US for like 3 years after that, even though he has spent like 8 years in the US and has worked his whole life in the US, he applies as a Brazilian. So that, and his English level, you can already say it's like great, right? So it's like it's way better than us that like never, me at least, I never did. So I do feel like it helps because they want a diversity, but it helps more because of your experiences living like in another country, right?
Right.
I think that's probably my take. It's probably a little bit easier being from outside of the US because you bring different perspectives. And when I say easier, it's like my GMAT score was probably lower than the average like US, but because they would prioritize my experience working for an airline, working in Brazil, in Chile, better than having another American in the classroom.
No, makes sense. Thank you.
Yes.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
I don't need to go to GMAT or Harvard, but I just want to know, when you're saying like you practice 4 hours a day, how you practice like your English? Like you reading something, or you like, I don't know, like, because my problem is, I mean, similar as yours. Sometimes I speak English, my husband don't understand. So like some accent, you know, we missing some pronunciation. So I want to see if you have like some tips, like for me to get with my accent, make people easy understand me more.
I love your question, Elaine, and I love your question because for two things. Like I feel like the GMAT is a task that you have to learn how to game the test, right? It's basically I don't think the test itself helps you improve your English at all, right? Maybe like a little bit on the grammar, but it's basically you have to learn how to respond to the answers. I don't think it improved any of my speaking proficiency or anything. And I kind of like think the same about the TOEFL. I will be honest, I think a little bit better. The TOEFL does require
Speaking.
like speaking and like writing. So I do like if you're thinking about some tasks that will kind of like force you to really like train your English, I think the TOEFL is probably a good one. But I think before that, I would probably encourage you like go do like classes, like a private class with someone that speaks English, and we'll give you feedback on your English, right? And I had the same thing about I wanted to not have an accent, right? Remember that, Michael? I was like, I don't want to have an accent, and I strongly disencourage you. Like everyone thinks having an accent is something that like is your personality, but it's just having the confidence to speak even if an accent that people will understand you, right? So just training your confidence rather than actually like losing your accent.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you don't have like a super strong accent that no one understands you, but a little bit of your accent is kind of like your personality. But that's Mike's right here. He's great.
Wow.
And Micah.
And Arine, your accent is a very, I've always found that the way you speak English is atypical of Brazilians. You don't sound like most Brazilians' accent. I'm not sure if it's because you come from an area where there's a lot of Germans there, and I don't know if the accent in Blumenau is so different, but you've never had the classic Brazilian accent that most other students have. But you're absolutely correct. People will make an effort to understand you if your accent is like we're a country like Brazil. We're a country filled with immigrants, and of course, you know, my wife and I can just like look out one side and there's people from Bangladesh, and on the other side of our house there's people from Tanzania, and you know their English is, you know, accented, you know, so it's very well said. And Elaine, for as I understand, your English is fine. I'm not sure why your husband can't understand you. Certainly you can. There's some particular sounds and things that are difficult for people who come from your part of the world to make, and those are things that can be worked on and adjusted. But Arine's point about being confident enough to speak is very valid. That's really the thing, to believe that you can talk and people can understand. Diane and I have had students here who their English was low, but they were confident enough and they just talked. and they knew they were making mistakes, but they just talked and they laughed about, you know, but people gravitated and they understood them because they were confident enough to speak. It's a very important thing. And Mateus, I would say that to you as well. Whenever you get to St. Louis, don't worry about, you know, like speaking perfect English. It doesn't really exist in my own opinion. It doesn't. I haven't heard Arine speak this long in a really long time. But Arine isn't speaking perfect English. She knows that, you know, but I'm not speaking perfect English either, and I'm a native speaker. So it's all about being confident enough. But certainly what she said is, if your accent is too strong, then yeah, you're not understood. But we're people here are used to hearing accents, and it's not like, you know, it's a very mixed society here, and so don't think, oh my God, I have an accent, people will never understand me. Not correct.
Thank you.
Sure. Diane, did you have a question for Arine?
Well, it was I don't know if this applies to Crystal or Elaine in terms of because Arine, I heard you talk about the GMAT. And I'm not sure the other people know that's the graduate entry level. It's the test you have to take. And my question is, did you do like any kind of preparation? This is hopefulness for, you know, anybody else who wants to listen, pursue a graduate management test.
Yeah.
I took it, but of course, in those days, I had to go to a hotel to do it. But I guess it's all online. So Arine, did you take the graduate management test online?
No, that was in person. I took it before COVID. It was before COVID, so it was in person. I think it is still in person, even with COVID, because they want to make sure you don't
Cheat.
get right.
It is such a game changer because, you know, you go 6 weeks and you practice the test. 3 parts are math, 2 parts are English. I was just sharing that with anybody else who has to take the GMAT. I'm sure it's online. Arine, you got to experience an on-site, and I did also. Like I loved being in a community of you know, other students who wanted to take the GMAT. But now it's, you know, for anybody else who wants to take it, I'm sure it's online.
Yeah, I don't know how is that, but maybe it is. I don't ever want to go back to have to take it again. So
Yeah, same here. Once I passed it, I got into graduate school, but I was just sharing that with anybody else who wants to take that next level to business school. You need the GMAT.
yeah.
Well, we're just about out of time because I have another student who'll be coming in, but she's not here yet. Arine, I just had one selfish question, and then I want to make sure that can somebody take when Arine's PowerPoint is up, can somebody take a screenshot of all of us? Anybody have that capability? Or I can do it with a camera, but that looks kind of funny. Can anybody do a screenshot? Diane,
I can do.
Can you do that, Kawaii?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when we're done with this. But I have one question for Arine. Arine, what is it? What kind of consulting are you doing? Are you doing financial consulting, like organizational consulting? What kind of consulting are you doing?
It can be all. So it's they call it's a strategic consulting, but it can be in like organizational related, strategy related. I think the big thing is that it's usually for like Forbes 400 companies, so any large corporation in the US or outside of the US as well. I don't know, like my current client is a logistics client, very large logistics clients.
McKinsey is really big.
Yeah. And Diane, I forgot to tell you that when I spoke with Arine last week, she was in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
And Diane was not so far away from you at that point.
Yeah, that's
uh,
where my family comes from.
Her parents.
I think this is the first time I'm meeting Magda.
It is. It is, yeah. And Magda comes to me through Arine's recommendation.
And I met Crystal before, but I'm not sure. I think I met Elaine.
No, probably not. Elaine is Crystal's friend. And Elaine and I worked together a little bit. But this is only the second or third time I've ever seen.
Well, and Calway, I hear your lessons with Mike. Good to meet you. And Mateus, did I say it the right way?
Mateus, you're right.
Mateus, I said it the right way, the Brazilian way.
And everybody, this is Tanya. Tanya's another one of my students, and Tanya's in Campinas also. And Tanya knows Calway, but everybody else doesn't. So can we take, first of all, let me thank Arine for the presentation.
Kisses. It's nice to see you, Arine. And that's personal because she's been here at our house.
And it was so nice to see Crystal and Arine back in the same room together, even if the room is separated by a couple thousand miles. And Magda and Elaine, very nice to see you. If I can help you, Elaine, let me know, please. Mateus, appreciate. Let's take one picture, okay? Somebody, Magda, Calway, you can take.
Yes, one smile. 1, 2, 3. Let me see. Yeah.
Perfect. Crystal, Elaine, Mateus, Calway, Magda, Diane. I'm really glad. It felt like a little bit of home here. Sophia and Andre had to drop out because they had some other things to do. But Arine, thank you so much. Good luck with your meeting and your client. And it was delightful to see us. And Diane and I will see your picture tonight when we're downstairs in the TV room with the other pictures. You look good in it. You had a nice blue sweater on. You look great. So it wasn't too bad. So thank you all for coming. And Tanya and I now have some work to do. So enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
You guys.